And this one kid of immigrant street peddlers grew up to become a U.S. diplomat repping the richest, most powerful country in the world. That's this promise that powers Queens and New York City and America. And my story is probably the same as yours and every one of your listeners. Whether it's you, your parents, your grandparents, that promise is being destroyed. It's being destroyed in a literal way, not an abstract way.
So, all right, folks, we're back. This is the Foolish Optimist podcast. My name is Amy McDonald. We are on the hunt for the next generation of leaders. Wherever you are, I hope you'll follow the podcast, give it a like or a subscribe. You can even, if you're feeling really magnanimous, give us a rating. But today, our guest is very special. I'm very excited. Chuck Park is running in New York's 6th Congressional District. He was born in Flushing, raised by Korean immigrants, store owners. Chuck served as a U.S. diplomat under Obama before quitting to protest Trump, and now he's running as a Democrat for Congress in Queens to defeat Trump, to kick out the corporate PACs, and to give power back to the working people of the world's borough. You can follow him at Chuck for Queens across any social you can pretty much think of, and then his website is also Chuck for Queens. So, Chuck, thanks for being here.
Yeah, Amy, thanks so much for having me. I think you said the whole thing. I'm running for Congress in Queens, New York City. This is the world's boroughs, as we call it. It's the most diverse communities in the world and definitely the beating heart of immigrant America. And I'm happy to be here.
I mean, I'm selfishly happy that you're here. I love speaking to other people from New York, and I'm not sure if it's just because you can keep up with the speed that I speak at, or if we just have a very fun conversation. So glad you're here. We do start the podcast the same way every single time. Why this seat and why 2026?
Yeah, so why this seat? Why 2026? Look, as you mentioned at the top, I'm the child of immigrants. Korean immigrants landed in Queens in the 80s, worked as street peddlers, grinding out 12, 13-hour days. And they believed in what I think is this foundational promise of New York City, maybe of America, which is doesn't matter where the heck you come from. You work hard, and this place is supposed to give you a home and a future. So they worked hard. They were able to buy a home. They had 5 kids. And this one kid of immigrant street peddlers grew up to become a U.S. diplomat repping the richest, most powerful country in the world. That's this promise that powers Queens and New York City and America. And my story is probably the same as yours and every one of your listeners. Whether it's you, your parents, your grandparents, that promise is being destroyed. It's being destroyed in a literal way, not an abstract way. ICE agents are everywhere. They're in Queens. They're grabbing a dad at a Home Depot parking lot. They're grabbing a mom walking home from school drop off. They're grabbing kids to the tune of hundreds a month, if you look at the statistics. And so I think we need leaders who will defend that promise. And for me, that means people who call to abolish ICE. And then I think we need people who will build on that promise. We need Medicare for all. We need universal child care at a national level. We need a pathway to citizenship. That's why that's why now. Queens is the future, and we need to fight for it.
It's a really great comprehensive answer, and our podcast is done. No, I'm joking. I appreciate that.
What borough do you live in? Because
I've called Brooklyn my home for the last couple of years off of the G line.
So now the podcast is officially done.
Well, it's off the G line, so I do go to Queens a lot. It's really easy to get there for me, or a city bike, obviously, if I want to take the scenic route through some fun warehouses and things like that. I'll pop over the bridge, but I love Queens and I love New York City, and I do think you're exactly right. I think there's there's consistently been this hope and this promise that is realizable still in New York City for some families. I do understand and I recognize that we've watched this shrinking of the middle class and the upward mobility so much over the last probably 30 years. Really, our parents got pretty lucky in the 80s and 90s. They were able to take advantage of it. But for the last 25 years, it's really been this big crunch, and the younger generations feel it so much. So I guess my question for you is, for the next generations, for the younger generations of America, what would your plans be? Aside from Medicare for all is great, not having to think about insurance, not having to pay. I mean, I've been a freelancer the majority of my career, so I've paid anywhere from $250 to $1,400 a month just to see a doctor and then be charged more.
Wow.
But
yeah.
what do you think Congress should be looking for in 2027 to help expand that middle class and bring that upward mobility back?
So for working families, these aren't the youth yet, and I'll get to that. But for
Yeah.
working families, we do need Medicare for all. We need
Yeah.
universal childcare at a national scale. It's 2026. Every other dang developed country in the world already has it, and it works great. And so we need to do it. And in 2027, we need leaders who aren't compromised and aren't bought and can fight unapologetically for those things. And I'm talking about establishment Democrats as well as Republicans who are bought. They take big fat corporate PAC donations from insurance companies, from
Mhm.
pharmaceutical companies, from hospital corporations. And then, no surprise, they sit on their hands and do absolutely nothing to
Right.
fight for working people and healthcare and universal healthcare. And so we need leaders who will not take a penny from any of that and
Right.
will fight hard for working people. Now, for the youth, I think we need to show them, and this isn't a piece of legislation, this isn't civic policy. We need to show them that there is such a thing as basic moral conviction, that our leaders aren't all these smarmy
Yeah.
politicians who like negotiate these deals and figure out the right omnibus bill package to tweak around the edges of broken policies. We need to show them that it doesn't matter if you have the votes yet. It doesn't matter if the procedure is long and it's tough. You have to stand up for the right thing. And I mean that when it comes to calling to abolish ICE. I know we don't have a majority in Congress. In fact, many Dems won't even say those words yet, but it's still
Yeah.
the right thing to say. It's still the right thing to fight for. I think it means standing up for trans kids. I think so many of our elected leaders, including so many Dems, are so afraid of their next reelection. They're afraid of a stupid they them attack ad.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, trans kids in this country are afraid of losing their lives. And
Right.
so
Right.
whether or not there are votes or there's, a viable legislation, I think young people are looking for leaders who will stand on the courage of their convictions. I think that's what they're looking for, some authenticity, some real fire and honesty from their leaders.
Do you remember the movie Remember the Titans?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I think about the scene where Julius and Gary Bertier are having a conversation almost every single day. And Gary Bertier says, "Your attitude's all wrong, man." And Julius says, "Attitude reflects leadership." And I think about that as it pertains to the leaders of our country almost every single day. So what you just said to me really gave me a little bit of fire in my belly because I think that's exactly what we need. And you're right. It's not legislation. It's just this moral fortitude of standing up for what's right versus what's wrong. And because, due in part to the money that you're talking about, these corporate PACs propping people up, they've been able to get away with not standing up for what's right, not standing up for what's right for their constituents and what's right, period, end of sentence, for years. And so I think this new generation and this new class coming in 27, you being one of them, is going to galvanize the youth just in terms of what leadership could look like, right?
I totally agree. I mean, thankfully, like in New York City, there is like, despite the madness and total chaos at the national level,
Mhm.
in the Trump White House and all that, in New York City, there is this electricity. And you
Yes.
got to talk about my man Zoran Mamdani, but AOC is here. There
Yep.
is this optimism and this electricity that change is possible. There is this better world that we can build together, one by one, leader by leader, fight by fight, we can win it. And frankly, like the part of Queens that I'm trying to represent, that I'm fighting to represent, we've had this leader, I won't say her name, but it's like she is the most bland mashed potatoes of politics.
Yeah.
And the parts of Queens that I want to represent are spicy. We got Sichuan food, we got Korean food, we got Bengali fuchka. These are some spicy communities with strong feelings about a lot of stuff. And our leader here, as well as leaders nationally, they just don't reflect, again,
Right.
that fire, that spice, that electricity. And I think that will change with this year's elections and in 2027.
I agree. No, it's so exciting. Your community is absolutely one of the most vibrant communities I can think of in not just in New York, but like you said, it's this world's borough. So it is exciting to see people challenging. It is. It's milk toast. You're boring.
Yeah.
You don't stand for anything. You've been around for over a decade and you just are like, "Ugh." And it is these corporate Dems. They have a lot of corporate sponsors, and that's why we don't see super inspiring leaders, because it is really hard to get into these races and to raise the money you need to beat these types of people who are getting checks that are like 100 grand.
And let me put it, like, it is, I don't want to deny that. It's really hard. My campaign is absolutely at a financial disadvantage.
Yeah.
We'll be outspent 5, 6, 7 to 1 because I will say no to those big fat checks. And so I get it. If you've been in office 10 plus years, 20 years, then it's the easiest thing in the world to say, I don't want to actually reach out to people and have to meet thousands of people who'll throw me $5, $10, $20. Why don't
Right.
I just take a handful of checks from these billionaires and I'm fine?
Yeah.
And that is exactly the moment where they are selling their souls and when they
Right.
give it up, right? And that's why we have, again, this milquetoast, this bland mashed potatoes of politics that we have today.
Yeah, the more I learn about the process, the more I realize just how expensive it is in every single state. And so it is, depending on where you're running, it's catering to people who already have money or who have really rich friends who can throw them money. So watching grassroots candidates like yourself, and you've raised a lot of money. I was looking at your FEC before this. You have, for a grassroots candidate, and you guys, it's come to my attention, nobody knows how to do this. Type in candidate name FEC. You're going to find them and you can look at all their contributions. I just did this with Chuck right before this. And so you have raised a lot of money for a grassroots candidate, not even close to obviously your incumbent, but how do you feel about the amount of money you've raised and how is it contributing to your campaign? And do you think it's enough to beat the incumbent right now?
So it's definitely enough to beat the incumbent. I'm going to win in June. So I'll start with that question. But
Fuck yeah.
in terms of how I feel about it, look, I raised in my last filing, I think we reported a total of 300,000 raised. To me, as a normal dude in Queens, that's a lot of money to raise over a couple months.
Yeah.
And we have at this point, I think almost more than 2,000, maybe 2,500 individual donors. And those donors are, I get random Act Blue contributions from a Costco cashier in Sarasota, Florida,
It's beautiful.
or an Uber driver in Brooklyn, or like a retired nurse in Stockton, California. And so I appreciate every single one of those $10, $20 donations because that's a lot of money for those people. That's an hour of work. And it inspires me more than anything that they're willing to give me that labor, that show of their labor to support what I'm fighting for, because it's that important to them that they also need to believe that it's possible to have leaders who aren't bought, who will fight hard for their needs. And so it's a lot of money to me. Again, hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands of individual contributions. But yeah, man, we're up against someone who will take those checks, not just corporate checks, but APAC money, and so has, raised more than $1 million, has fewer donors than me, despite being in office for more than a decade.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what we're using it for, it's all buying, pizza, bottles of water, and flyers for our volunteers. So it's that's what it is. We run 6 or 7 canvases a week, door knockers, going out almost every single day, just meeting people one by one by one where they are and spreading the word. And guess what? It's a popular message. People are ready for it as soon as they hear it. They want to hear it.
That's so exciting. Since we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. If you care about politics enough to listen to this podcast, you've probably felt the frustration of trying to navigate government. Who's your city council member? State? What district are you even in? It shouldn't be this hard. Luckily for us, there's Civic Politics, a free app that brings all your elected officials together in one place from City Hall to Congress. No more hunting across dozens of outdated government websites. Just download Civic Politics on the App Store or Google Play Store and finally have your representatives in the palm of your hand. Follow at civic.app on TikTok or civic.politics on Instagram to be the first to know about the latest features. Hi, it's Amy here. If you want to support the Foolish Optimist podcast, the best thing you can do for us is follow the podcast wherever you're listening and share it to your friends and neighbors. But if you'd like to monetarily support, you can find me on Venmo at AMYMACCC. That would be a huge help as well. Thank you. So we're talking about knocking doors. What are the top 2 things you're hearing from people on the ground in District 6?
The one thing that I hear over and over again is about the war in Iran. And it's funny because the war in Iran is happening very far away from us. It seems like this abstract foreign affairs, foreign policy thing. But no, we hear about the war in Iran in the context of something that's very real, which is affordability. People might not know the ins and outs of the history of that region and the great leader, the Ayatollah, and whatever, but they do know that their gas prices, their grocery bills, their energy bill, everything is going up since this war started. And then they see the headlines that not only are the prices of everything going up, but the government is wasting $1 billion a day of our tax money to achieve absolutely nothing. And so they're connecting these decisions of our leaders in Washington to their life getting worse and harder.
Yep.
And so you hear about that everywhere about affordability. This stupid war in Iran is making life more expensive for all of us. It's a war that none of us wanted. So that's number one. The second thing we hear about all the time is ICE.
Yeah.
Again, this is the world's borough, immigrant families. A lot of people won't open their doors when you knock on their door. They'll talk through the crack or talk through the
Yeah.
peephole because they're afraid of who's on the other side. A lot of people are scared or they want to stand up for their neighbors and they want to hear people say that they'll fight to defend our families. They do want people who'll say they'll abolish ICE. They don't like this fear that's pervading their neighborhoods. So that's the one too. It's the war around affordability and then standing up to ICE.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we're hearing across the country. I think people are finally connecting the dots that, like, when we spend money like this, and I've never in my life have I heard a single person ask the question, how are we going to pay for this war? When, every time we bring up affordable housing, we bring up Medicare, we bring up child care. I don't know. I don't know. Can you imagine if $1 billion just got dropped into New York City? Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly right.
it's so frustrating to me, but I'm so grateful that it is so brazenly out in the open. It's not Dick Cheney style behind closed doors. People can really see exactly these connections of what it's doing to us and what we could be spending that money on. This is just another needless war. And I always tell people, I'm like, we don't have a money problem. We have a spending issue.
That's right. I'm all about tax the billionaires. But even before we tax the billionaires, we have enough right now to do a lot of good.
So
This
good.
stupid war, yeah, this stupid war costs tens of billions, estimates between 25 and 50 billion, right? With that money, we could have built not just one subway line, but three, four, five notoriously expensive subway lines in New York City. We could have funded a year's worth of universal childcare nationwide
Right.
with what we burned through, what we blew up in 2 months. And that's a safe place for every kid of a working parent across the country. And so these are the choices that our leaders are making now before even talking about taxing the rich or increasing people's taxes by a penny.
It feels very disheartening to be a taxpayer right now. Because literally I'm like, I'll be real with you. I'm not great with money, but I'm better than that. Like,
Yeah.
that's the truth of it. And it's so frustrating when we know that, our Veterans Affairs Department is crumbling and all of these things are being taken away from us so that they can spend the money on these wars. And that has been the plan for so long. When you're thinking about January in 2027, do you have any coalitions going into Congress? Do you have people that you're already speaking with or groups that you're working with so that you're not one of 425, but you're maybe a group?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the things I've said, calling for the abolition of ICE, calling to stop funding war and genocide, calling for Medicare for all, universal child care, it's what dozens and dozens and dozens of candidates across the country are calling for, and many of them are winning their elections, winning their primaries, and I think will win their general elections. And so there is a movement,
Yeah.
right? This isn't about one dude in Queens. It's about this movement, and it's a movement that started a long time ago, maybe as far back as FDR 100 years ago with the New Deal.
Yeah.
But more recently, it's in New York City. You had AOC, you have Mamdani, and then you have Graham Plattner doing his thing in Maine. He's going to win that one. You have across the country this same movement of fighting back against corporate greed, against corrupt bought politicians for the good of working people. And so those are the people I will find. I'm lucky that there is a whole group of them in New York City. People like Brad Lander in Brooklyn, maybe close to the one you live. People like Daria Lisa fighting against Espaillat in the Bronx and Upper Manhattan. People like Claire Valdez who has this district that spans Queens and Brooklyn. These are people who are in the same fight, who are also igniting that spark, and that spark is turning to a fire among people who are ready for this change, who are like pissed off, frustrated, but also ready to fight for this better future.
Oh, literally. So these interviews are like the highlight of my day, right? I spend the majority of my day reading news and writing articles and doing all these other things. And this is the thing that lights me up because I think you're right. No, I'm going to rephrase that. I know you're right. I know that the American people are ready, willing, and able to change. And I'm seeing so many people who are like true progressives. And I've said it before, the way our system is set up is midterms is supposed to be a referendum on the person in power. And it is done this way so that we get a moment in time to actually say, hey, wait a minute, we don't like what you're doing without having to wait for 4 years. But I do think it is a referendum on the establishment Dems as well, right? There's a lot of talk of reforming ICE, and it's just you can't. There's no way.
You
It's
can't do it. Yeah. Let's jump into that one. ICE got 75 billion authorized last year, and they've hired 12,000 new officers under
yeah.
Trump. The majority of ICE is now Trump ICE. It's these
Hmm.
assholes with blocks and bulletproof vests and criminal records. And there's no, I don't care if you put a name badge and pull down their mask, they're still going to shoot you dead in the street. They're still going to tackle you and tase you and pepper spray you in the face at point blank range. And so
Yeah.
that needs to be abolished. They need to wipe that clean. We can talk about interior immigration enforcement after,
Yeah.
but the first thing we have to do is abolish that new paramilitary force that we saw in Minneapolis, what they did there, and that they're still doing just the other day in Brooklyn. I don't know if you saw these videos
I did.
out of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's, dragging a dude across the ground, shoving him into the back of the car. They got their masks. They're like pointing tasers at protesters. The sad thing there is that it looked like they had some backup from the PD, NYPD. I think
Yeah.
the mayor's commented on that, but it looked like there was some, I don't know if it was open cooperation, but there was certainly some backup defending ICE against a lot of people who were pissed off. A lot of normal New Yorkers showing up to stand up for one of their own.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just happening in New York as well. The Los Angeles Police Department has been colluding with ICE for over 10 months in direct opposition to state laws. And so it's, that is, like you said, there's a spark of hope with Zohran Mamdani because it is so hopeful, but he's just so no bullshit. People are like, oh, this is crazy. He said he was going to do it. Now he's doing it. And yeah, that's actually what politicians did once upon a time. I don't know when. It hasn't really been in my lifetime, but I know for a fact at some point there were politicians saying they were going to do things and then doing them. And so, yeah, I am interested to see where that goes because obviously New York City is on Donald Trump's shit list. New York State is because of the attorney general. And I do think I have a firm belief in my heart that Tish James is going to be the person that like brings that man down after he's out of office if he
I hope
lives that long.
that'd be poetic justice. Yeah.
I like just see it in my mind. I'm like I can see this happening. And so, yeah, I guess I'll ask you this question instead. What is the most surprising thing that you've come across in this campaign so far?
It's really a question. I've been surprised a lot. The most surprising thing for me is that it is possible for a normal person to run for office, and I'm this close to winning it. Like a few months ago when I launched, I truly was just, I had a city agency job. My wife's a nurse. We were reading the headlines like everybody else, just freaking fuming. And there was a headline about raids on Canal Street, these ICE raids. They had these
Mhm.
armored trucks. They were grabbing street vendors. And for me, it hit so personally because that's where my dad sold t-shirts 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
every dude they're grabbing is erasing a story that could be my story. And I was so pissed off and angry that I actually emailed my opponent. I emailed their office about, hey, what are we doing to fight back against ICE? And I did not receive a response. And so I looked at my office and said, screw it. We can do better than this. New Yorkers are ready to fight back. Like normal people have the fire to fight back. It's our leaders. They don't have the energy. They don't have the fight in them.
Yeah.
And so I went online, I Googled how to run for Congress. I filled out an
Step one,
FEC form.
always
Yeah, step
Google.
one, Google it. And it's literally filling out two online forms on a website that was probably built in 1998.
Classic.
And then the next day, I was a candidate for Congress. And what's wild is now we're talking 5 months later, and it's working. Like, again, I've
Yeah.
raised six digits. There are hundreds of volunteers signed up. We're doing canvases, 6, 7 shifts a week.
Love it.
And so that's what's shocking me, that truly a normal person who gives a shit can actually like do something, can plug into a movement that's there, can tap into an electricity, a fire, an energy, whatever you want to call it. And it's surprising, it's been inspirational, and I'm going to keep going till I win it in June.
That's awesome. Yeah, the primary for New York City is June 23rd. Don't forget, guys. It's like
Please don't forget. Yeah.
kind of random. And so make sure you show up and New York's we have a low turnout history for primaries, but that's changing, I believe. Zoran changed it, and then I also think generally everything happening in the United States right now, every primary we've had is hitting record numbers, which is great news because we used to hover between 7 and 10% for primary showing up, and that's disgusting. But can we talk about social media for a minute? You are,
Totally.
yeah, I was looking at your socials earlier. You have over 60,000 followers. What do you think has been the story of success behind social for you?
I have no freaking idea. I'll tell you what's happened in the last few months, and there's no secret sauce. I'll tell you what I'm doing, and then anybody can do it. I started with 15 followers with like my mom, my dad, and my siblings.
Yeah.
And then I ran for Congress. I like launched my candidacy. I was like, oh shoot, I need to build an audience. And someone told me there are two things to do. One, anyone can do it. It's consistency.
Yeah.
Just put something out every day. It might not be your best work. It might not be, the perfect shot with the right post-production, but just do it, get in the habit of doing it, and just putting stuff out there will start
Hmm.
building consistency. The second thing, which I think is a lot harder, is authenticity.
Yeah.
It's looking straight into your audience, into the camera, and just telling people how you really feel about something.
Yeah.
And for me, that's super easy and it should be easy for most people. That's what we do all the time, right? You meet a buddy for a beer, you have a coffee with an old friend. You're talking about how you really feel about whatever, about the headlines, about ICE, about the
Hmm.
news, about the last movie you saw. But somehow when it goes into social media mode, people start thinking, oh, I have to perform. I have to have this really
Yeah.
complicated script. And especially politicians, like established, again,
Oh, God.
bland politicians with talking points and memos, they
Yeah.
definitely can't do it. They definitely don't have it.
Yeah.
And so that authenticity is the second part, which is both hard, but also really easy because most people have a real person inside that
Right.
they just have to like somehow record.
Yeah.
And it's worked. Yeah, that went from again 15 people in November to 60,000 now.
Yeah.
I'm putting stuff all the time. Some of it hits, some of it moves people, some of it not so much, but I'm just putting my honest thoughts out there.
That's awesome. I mean, authenticity is the ticket for like anything in life, guys. But for politicians, it's very easy to see through. And I think, the person I recognize with the most is Hakeem Jeffries. He's I say younger generation. He is younger as it pertains to Congress. Our congressional age is bonkers old. He does, I think, have a better handle on social than others, but you can feel that he's like not being super authentic and it comes through every time. And so it's that's you heard it here first, guys. Authenticity and consistency.
That's what it is. Yeah. And don't overthink it. I mean, I truly, I'm a millennial. I'm 40 years old. I don't have like exquisite post-production skills with
Yeah.
cool transitions and pop-ups. I'm using a janky, like pre-installed video editor on Windows 10. And so it doesn't take like the right software or the right edit. It takes consistency and authenticity. That's what it is.
I'm right behind you. I'm like 36 and TikTok
Yeah.
is winding down because of the Larry Ellison purchase. And someone was like, "Oh, you need to try out this new app." And I finally was like, "Go on without me. I'm
Yeah.
done. I can't do another one." I'm like, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Substack, I'm on Instagram. I'm
But there's too
cooked.
many.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it for me. I'm not learning one more thing. But I mean, speaking of Larry Ellison, maybe we could talk a little bit about your thoughts on monopolies.
Monopolies, yeah, they're monopolies, and I'll call them the oligarchs. I call them the Epstein files people.
Yeah.
I think they've totally bought our democracy. I think people are seeing that now very transparently with Elon Musk and Doge, with
Yes.
Larry Ellison, with formerly progressive or people like to fashion themselves as progressive tech CEOs, kowtowing to Trump, whether it's Zuckerberg or what's his face from OpenAI.
Sam.
It's like explicit corruption. They want to make more money, so they will donate money to people with power. And then those people power let them make money. And there's this cycle.
Yeah.
And it replicates itself. It's not just Trump in the White House. It's every level down our government. And I want to talk about a specific example in Queens, if I can. There's this massive casino proposed for the parking lot City Field.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a huge parking lot. It used to be Shea Stadium, and then now it's City Field. And this billionaire asshole, his name's Steve Cohen. He's been in the headlines for the biggest insider trading scandal in U.S. history.
Yeah.
And since then, he has been investing in, I don't know, ICE detention centers. He's been investing in defense contractors, including
Mhm.
Israeli defense contractors. He's invested in Republican political campaigns. And now he's investing and proposing this casino for Citi Field. And all of these progressive electeds in Queens, New York City, members of the raddest groups and who bear the flag of every progressive movement, have been totally silent on it. A lot of them have been totally silent on it. And big surprise when you look at their books, you Google them and look at their donations. Yeah, they took a check from a lobbyist or two or three. Yeah, they got their selfie on Citi Field with Mr. Met, and like they
No.
got a free ticket. Sorry, I got a dog barking. And so it's like this basic corruption, not just at the White House, but even the hyper local level where
Right.
billionaires are buying our democracy.
It's nonstop, right? And it does. This is our, if ever anyone's keeping track, this is the only version of trickle down economics that is actually happening, and it is trickle down corruption. And it's really interesting when you do see it at, you know, New York is a democratic state, and God bless for that, right? There is corruption, and there's corruption everywhere, but it doesn't look like the same as like a place like Texas, where the governor has his own super PAC, where he is dropping millions and millions of dollars into state races, which are like, they're representing 75 to 90,000 people. And you can see it all happening, and it's all traceable, and it's all legal. That's the other part of that, is that these types of loopholes have to be closed, because it seems like even the best of people can be tempted, and they can turn into something that is the worst version of themselves.
I think I totally agree. There's so many loopholes and open channels for this cash to flow. I think there's a few fixes. Citizens United has to be overturned.
Yeah.
Congress can authorize the expansion of the Supreme Court, and we could put in the right justices, and we could overturn that decision and end that pipeline of big cash into politics. So we need to undo Citizens United. That's one thing. But there's other quick fixes. We need to ban insider trading by members of Congress. I don't know how that's
Come
legal.
on. Come
I know,
on.
and like,
Their people on the Hill can't. Their staffers aren't allowed to. They're very heavily
yeah,
watched on what they trade. Like,
and it's disgusting. You see it's transparent, like Nancy Pelosi, but you see the personal stock holdings of members of Congress who own shares in defense contractors, own shares in Meta, and they're the ones who are supposed to be regulating these companies, but they obviously have a conflict of interest.
right,
And so
right.
we need to ban insider trading, but also, ban that active management of their stock portfolios. And then I think, this is a little crazier, but I think there should be a federal system of matching funds. Now we have that in New York City and New
Yes.
York State, but that multiplies small dollars like normal people's contributions, which
Mm-hmm.
blunt the power of the mega checks and the mega
Right.
donors. So there could be a federal system of matching funds that allows grassroots candidates like myself or many others to not have to go begging the billionaires for a check and can instead raise small dollars from normal people to fight a winning campaign.
And it just gives the normal people a fighting chance. That's all we're looking for. Is we know that this country, like we've already spoken about this, right? This country is a place where you can come and you can have a dream and you can build something really great, and you can hopefully give yourself an upward mobility towards throughout your life and leave something better for your kids. The goal is the American dream is for all of us to make a little bit more money than we were making, but there should be some sort of equality or way for this playing field to be equalized. And that's what the federal matching dollars would be like. And that's what New York does. I don't know if California does it. They do it as well. I think a handful of other states do it. I mean, I think I would also, if we're doing wish lists, federal matching dollars and ranked choice voting. That's
Ranked
mine.
choice voting, it works. It takes some education. Like the first, I don't know if you're on New York for 2021, like people had
Eric
no idea
Adams.
what ranked choice
This is
was.
how we got
Eric
Eric
Adams, that was the
Adams.
result of ranked choice voting the first time.
Also,
But the
nobody showed
second
up.
time,
No one
yeah,
showed up. Literally, Eric Adams won, even with ranked choice voting, with 440 some thousand votes. We have like almost 5 million registered voters in New York, and the vast majority of them are Democratic. So it was, looking back at those numbers, it was disgusting. Catherine Garcia almost won. She had I think it was 8 to 10,000 would have covered the spread.
yeah, yeah. And so if there was like the right, cross endorsement, like ranked choice list strategy, we wouldn't have had to deal with all the actually very fun and hilarious years of Eric Adams, but also terrible years of Eric Adams.
He's permanently in my mind in that photo of him with the NYPD vest and a Fendi scarf.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in Albania. He went to Albania. He's an
No,
Albanian citizen with a traditional hat on, and he's
not
and he's
that
like
one.
speaking like he's proud to be an Albanian now.
It's just yeah, it was, you talk about corruption. There was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, ranked choice voting needs education. There's a ton of education that needs to happen around our political system. And, part of this is by design. There's a couple primaries this year that they're not on Tuesday. And people are like, oh, why is that? And I'm like, it's to make sure people don't show up. And I have to only expect that it is to confuse people. And I understand our system doesn't allow for, all 50 states to be given electoral advice from the federal government. I get that. But there needs to be some standard somehow to make sure that everyone knows when voting is, how to vote, and like just make it easier.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, you probably know this, but so states run elections,
Yeah.
and in many states, the person who runs the elections is called the Secretary of State.
Mhm.
That's an elected position, like a partisan elected position.
Yeah, I
And
know.
so that person, at the same time that they're determining the rules for how elections are run, is often running for
Trying to
reelection
get
themselves. It's
reelected. Yeah.
totally like that doesn't make it's like again, conflict of interest, stupid arrangement of our system. But that's still the case in many states. Yeah, that should be fixed.
Well, people will forget this, but our country is a jurisdictional nightmare, right? We've got 50 states, we've got the district, we've got Puerto Rico, we've got all these other like territories, and every single one does everything a slightly different. But yeah, then we run into the like constitutional originalism.
I mean,
Then
look, our country literally started as a bunch of colonies, right? They
yeah,
called themselves the 13 original colonies. Then they had this march westward, displacing, I don't know, millions and millions and millions of indigenous people. And then they built an American empire. Like it's,
yeah,
again, imperial
truly,
expansion. They grabbed islands. They grabbed Puerto Rico from the Spanish and the Philippines for a while. They
yeah,
planted military bases and outposts around the world during the Cold War that still exist today. South Korea hosts almost 30,000 U.S. troops in the dead center of like prime real estate in Seoul.
yeah,
And it's an empire. And you're right. It's in terms of elections and jurisdiction, it's a nightmare because it's not just like a two-tier system of federal and state. You have these territories. You have people overseas on military bases. You
yeah.
got, I don't know, it's wild.
You have local stuff, you have city stuff, you have county stuff, and everything is different. And again, I because I make history content, I'm like, I swear some of this is just to confuse people and make it harder to vote, and people just won't show up. And then, of course, we have the Supreme Court just doing whatever it wants. If you were to give one piece of advice to somebody deciding to run for Congress, what would it be?
Oof, that's a really good question. One piece of advice if you decide to run for Congress, just look in the mirror or close your eyes and imagine the election day, whether it's a primary election or general election, and make sure you're imagining like the multiverse of how that could go before you jump into it. It could be the big victory, the upset, everyone's cheering for you, you're in the headlines the next morning or that evening, or it could go the other way. You're standing next to your wife and your kids, and everyone you love is watching you, and there's a chart on the screen and it's all going against you, and you're up there in front of the crowd. And so just be prepared for the emotion, for the hours and having it go either way at the very end.
That's really good advice. We're going to move into our little last segment here. Could you please tell everyone where they can find you, where they can donate, volunteer, and all of the things?
Incredible. Yeah. So the quick plug is it's chuckforqueens.com. It's Chuck for Queens across all socials. Chuck FORQUEENS. I would welcome a contribution of any size as long as you're not a corporate PAC, a lobbyist, or a bundler for APAC. $5 or $10, every single dollar counts. And if you live in Queens or anywhere in New York, sign up for a shift. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to buy you a slice of pizza, and then I'd love to go, pound out hundreds of doors with you. So please sign up, show up. I want to see you in Queens, and that's it. That's how we're going to win it.
Amazing. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Government information shouldn't require a scavenger hunt. Luckily for us, Civic Politics is a free app that shows you all of your elected officials, city, state, federal, all in one place. Download it now on the App Store or in Google Play Store and have the information you need in the palm of your hand. Hi, it's Amy here. If you want to support the Foolish Optimist podcast, the best thing you can do for us is follow the podcast wherever you're listening and share it to your friends and neighbors. But if you'd like to monetarily support, you can find me on Venmo at AMYMACCC. That would be a huge help as well. Thank you. Okay, so our last little roundabout here is just rapid fire questions. So, first one is, where were you a diplomat?
Oh, okay. I was in Juarez, Mexico, Lisbon, Portugal, Vancouver, Canada, and then DC for chunks in between.
Do you speak Spanish
Sí, habla español casi fluentemente.
and Korean?
Yes, I also speak Korean. But my Korean, my parents can hate me saying this. My Spanish is better than my Korean.
Well, obviously, living in a place where you had to speak it every day, that is really just if you were dropped
But
into Korea, I'm sure your Korean would pick right back up. So, are you more of a morning person or an evening person?
definitely morning person. By necessity. I wake up at 6 in the morning. My kids are up by 6:30. Got to get ready for school. Got to get out the door. So definitely a morning person by necessity.
How many kids do you have?
I have two kids. So there's an asterisk there. I have a 13-year-old that was born in El Paso, Texas when I was in Juarez. We are foster parents and we were
Oh,
able to
wow.
adopt a baby. And so she was with us for a few years and we adopted her this past November. She's 4 now. And then there's a bunch of kids who passed their home. We love all of them. Some of them stayed for 2 weeks, some of them for 10 months. And we count them as our kids. They're not in
Yeah.
our home right now. But two kids now in our home.
Two kids now in our home. Do you know how many kids you fostered, or is it not a number you remember? Five kids?
Five kids. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
We
beautiful.
started
Honestly,
in 2020.
being a foster parent is one of the most inspiring the things you can do, right? I mean, it's obviously fostering, the goal is reunification, and that is opening your heart, and then sending them back that's a really big deal, and I
Yeah,
think it's really beautiful.
exactly. I'm thank you for saying that. It is really powerful, and you fall in love, and you know that there's a timeline, and you're gonna have to say goodbye to some kid that you fall in love with. Mm.
Yeah. But also, I think fostering is, I think there's a way to look at it like you're still the village. You're part of the village that helped raise these kids, and you're always going to be there for them no matter what. And that's one of those really beautiful things, I think,
Yeah,
of
and
just
I mean
like with
on
the
that,
world.
one thing that upsets me so much is, foster kids are wonderful, foster parents are amazing people. I wish that this social network, that the support network that snaps into place when a kid enters foster care, I wish that existed for every parent, like
Yeah.
that it intervened before the child was taken out of a home. When I think about my 4-year-old, I mean, it gets me emotional, but if her mom and dad had a monthly check and had access to basic
Right.
health care and parenting services and addiction counseling services before ACS, the Administration for Children's Services, intervened, Bella would not be in our lives. And maybe she would even be better off. And so it is, I wish that system existed.
What a powerful thing to say. Obviously, you love her and you're very grateful, but
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean,
that's the
I'm literally
truth.
going to make myself cry on this
I
podcast thinking about it. But yeah.
but that is the truth, right? When we talk about especially and we talked about the younger people, there's so many people in our country who want to have children who just it feels so unattainable right now because the
Yeah.
economy is such wet hot garbage and the housing market is so tough and our salaries haven't changed and
That's what I mean. Somehow, again,
minimum wage
I
is
say it.
$7.
Federal minimum wage is $7. You can't buy half a coffee for $7. And it's shocking because it's true. My parents were selling clothes on the sidewalk and somehow they could buy a home and raise 5 kids. That was
Right,
possible.
exactly.
That was possible a
Exactly.
generation ago. Why isn't it possible anymore? It's not possible because our leaders gave up on it. They
Right.
sold out.
Right.
They made it so it's not possible. And they're working for the people who are crushing us.
It's true. And it's both parties, to different extents. So, um, what was the last book you read?
The last book I read was probably Human Acts by an author named Han Kang.
Oh,
She's a South
cool.
Korean author. She just won the Nobel. I promise I read it before she won, but it's
Eh,
about this.
Not a bandwagon fan, I swear.
I am in many other, like in most other ways, but it's the story of, look, Korean K-pop is surging. Korean stuff is all over the place. K-pop Demon Hunters, BTS, you got fancy Korean restaurants, but like a lot of people don't know the history of South Korea. There was an authoritarian military regime installed by the US government after the Korean War for
Right.
decades. And there was a active, like crazy, intense student movement in the 80s that overthrew that regime. And there was a lot of violence. And so she writes about something called the Gwangju Uprising, about that intense moment in the early 80s that the government tried to violently suppress, torturing people in basements, open beatings, open gunfire on the streets. And the students won, but she writes about that period in that book, Human Acts by Han Gang.
Wow. That sounds, I'm gonna, this is recorded. I don't need to write it down. I can look back at my notes. What's your favorite New York City sports team? New York State.
Oh, let's go Mets. It's got to be the Mets. Don't love their owner, but love the team.
Tough, it's a character building event being a Mets fan. Last question. What is your favorite thing about New York's 6th District?
My favorite thing about New York 6th District, you can get me in trouble. It's
Yeah.
the 7 train. It's got to be the 7 train.
An
Immigrant
inanimate
Express.
object.
Yeah, it's the rumbling over Roosevelt Avenue. It's like every subway car on the 7 is filled with this optimism flowing out of every door, this hustle. That look in the eyes of people in the morning of the 7 train. They're ready to go get it for their families, for themselves. You see the hope and the dreams in their faces. You see the exhaustion when they're coming home after a shift or a double shift. But that train just going east-west across Queens into the city and back is what I love about the 6th District.
Guys, that's a perfect place to wrap up. This is Chuck for Queens, and you can follow him everywhere and check out his website at Chuck for Queens. And that is FOR, not the number, Chuck for Queens. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Amy. It's fun.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much. My name's Amy McDonald. I am the host and the editor of the Foolish Optimist podcast. Our theme music was made by my brother, Bobby McDonald. Our branding was done by Norm Alger. If you're looking to support the Foolish Optimist podcast, the best thing you can do is follow us and share. But you can also support me on Venmo at Amy Mac, AMYMACCC. And you can reach out to me at the Foolish Optimist podcast at gmail.com.